Alright guys, how's it going again today? I hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far. So much reaction to the big rumours emerging that some of these CDL teams next season are going way below even the minimum salary used to be a couple of years ago, and whether some of these players should actually just refuse Cloud9's offers entirely, go and put the fries in the bag, go and do something else, maybe go and play college Call of Duty instead. Is there a realistic possibility some of these guys next season simply are refusing CDL offers because of the money on the table? Lots of other updates as well. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. As I said yesterday, this could be relevant to some of the OpTic Halo players looking to make the transition over here to competitive Call of Duty. This is the OpTic Halo roster: Legend, Bound, Renegade, and of course Formal. Formal, we don't really know what he's looking to do next. We do know that Renegade put out the tweet that said free agent for Black Ops 7, and yes, maybe afterwards he said to Hex, oh, I was just joking, we tweeted it out because others were as well. But I think there's a good chance that Bound and Renegade very much do have a future in Call of Duty in their minds, given the fact that the Halo Championship Series is no longer going to exist next year. There is questions as a result of this as to whether they are still fully focused on Halo, because the World Championship is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. There was a LAN event that concluded last night, which they did not win, and I know that some OpTic fans are saying, well, are they really locked in? Right, Formal seems pretty damn locked in, but Bound, Renegade, Legends, they've all said, at least whether you believe Bound or Renegade or not, that they want to play Black Ops 7. Hex said, look, you're not a free agent, you're not even a restricted free agent. If you want to play cards, come and play for our Challengers team next year. Like basically form a Challengers team for the first time and have the Halo guys featuring on it. They played True or Foe Rebellion, they went down to the losers side, they then took down FaZe to make it back to the Grand Finals, but in the Grand Finals they then went down to SR again. So Royal 2, and those boys, they take the win over Formal, Bound, Renegade, and Legend. Now I think the Bound had an issue with his controller, and like he didn't have his primary controller, so he was kind of stinking up the gaff on the Slayers. But apart from that, look, it's obviously not the World Championship. We'll see where it goes from here, but definitely OpTic not on top exactly, and I don't think Formal wants to count up the amount of second places they've had over the last couple of years, but it's not been especially pretty. But anyway, that's the situation there. Whether that's going to affect any of these guys coming to COD, especially because, as we're going to say again on the Cloud9 discussion, if they're offering like no money at all, then maybe it makes some sense to stay in Challenges or stay as part of OpTic to some extent, rather than leaving them playing for not even just a minimum CDL salary, but just a minimum wage in general, as we're going to look to in a second. Now, there's also a couple of updates on the league matches we're expecting to have next season, and of course the events as well. So this is JoeDeceives, and I mean, I thought this was kind of out of nowhere, but he was yesterday in Lyon for the, I think it was the Rocket League World Championship. Yeah, so you can go see in the bottom of the screen. JoeDeceives turned up, he sat on the desk and he had, well, whatever they were doing here, they had a little bit of a chat about it, and I thought it was pretty cool. I know that Joe plays a bit of Rocket League, he's a pretty big fan of the game, I don't know, came over to Europe or whatever to come and enjoy part of it. Now, this championship has been pretty mega. I didn't really watch much of it over the last few days, but the level of passion and the supporters is actually different gravy at this event, and I'll share this clip for you guys in a second, but just to look at a couple of the pieces of footage from this event. So a lot of this is Carmine Corps and the French fans in general just being absolutely mega for all the various games. I think even the Fortnite thing's coming up soon, but certainly Rocket League, the passion is crazy, and Carmine Corps, they're not in Call of Duty, they're in a few games. Look, but the French fans supporting Gentlemate are not too dissimilar in some sense. So this is like unbelievable footage, and it's great to see that esports has the ability to do stuff like this. I mean, you know, some of us will compare this footage here to this year's Call of Duty League major in Miami, which was in, you know, a gymnasium. And right, so obviously it's not really an apples to apples comparison, right? But even this year's World Championship at times out in Kitchener wasn't exactly ideal. But this is what Rocket League are cooking up. Now, this is relevant because there's all this talk about Gentlemates hosting a Call of Duty event next year, and if they're going to do so, where was it going to be? They did a tweet about La Rochelle, which is a city right on the west coast. obviously this event was in Lyon. You could do an event in Nice, you could do an event, of course, in Paris. There are other options there. Paris would be, obviously it's the capital, right? But not to say that you can't still run a spectacular event in other cities in France if you are going to do it in France. There are reasons, you would imagine, why what we think is going to be the DreamHack event coming to the UK next year that Call of Duty will be a part of. DreamHack are not going to run it in London, they're going to run it in Birmingham, where they can have more space and it's more affordable to do so. Something that Gentlemates might be thinking about, although Gataga did say that if they do get granted the ability to run an event next season, they will go above and beyond in terms of budget to make it absolutely spectacular. Could they make it as spectacular as this? That is another question, but the French fans for esports, I mean just sports, but esports in general have always been fantastic. People always used to rave about the ESWC crowd back in 2015, 2016, those years where there was an event in France that was played. The EWC branding actually was bought out by the Esports World Cup that's just happened, because that's what that used to stand for. They pretty much paid them some money just so they could use any of those kind of naming conventions, as far as I'm aware, and yeah, just some more footage of the fans and the energy in that arena. So could something similar happen in COD? Would it be possible? I think it's doable. There's obviously some excitement about more European events. I think Madrid was pretty good the most recent year. Look, there was problems with the event. I don't think it was perfect. Like the location where it was with regard to the city probably could have been better. You don't have everything in COD, and you don't have everything in general. And I think the way that they set up that Madrid event last year, given where it was really, really good. Hopefully this year, if we do get two events, of course, Aches, this is like an old tweet from him about the crowds being better and everything because the drinking age is 18. I think it's just that, but I do hope anyway that if we have a UK event, people turn up and show out. And look, Birmingham, it might not be, as far as I'm concerned, the ideal location, but it is central in the country, so it is definitely gettable to. And even Jurassic Emily was talking about it and saying champs could be held in a warehouse in the middle of Birmingham. We'll probably still have a better crowd than this year. And well, looks like that's basically exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be at a warehouse in Birmingham. It's not going to be the World Championship. We think maybe champs in Vegas. That has been one of the big rumours of the last couple of days. But I wanted to show a couple of clips here talking about some of the salaries in the league. Now, Methods was on the OpTic podcast the other day, and he said that as far as he's heard, the salaries of some of these teams are going down quite dramatically. We don't know exactly what the salaries were a couple of years ago, but the big rumour was that the average salary of the players was something like $120,000, $150,000. Like most teams would pay that as like a pretty, if you were an average CDL player on a pretty good team, that's probably what you were getting paid, something in that ballpark. The weaker teams obviously were paying near enough the minimum, like Paris Legion were. The top end players were getting paid 300, 400, something in those kind of numbers. And nowadays we know that organizations like the Falcons are continuing to push those numbers to new heights. But on the other end of the spectrum, things have changed dramatically. The minimum salary is gone, but I didn't think it would make much difference. Now, part of this might be because there's certain minimums they're going to pay the players during the season, but they don't necessarily have to sign the players for the full 12 months. This is another thing that the organizations have done to kind of cheese it. So you think, oh, well, 30k a year, what is that, like 2.5k a month? But actually the organization will say, no, we're paying them a good solid, we're paying them like 4k a month or something, but we're only signing them for 7 months because, they decide for the entire off season, which is also fair enough in a way. I mean, why would you pay the players to play for you during the off season? Like right now, Cloud9 have no one on their team, so they're not paying any salaries. When they do sign players, presumably as last minute as they possibly can, then they will start to pay them what might be a reasonable salary on a month-by-month basis, but that contract will likely end as soon as the season is done, so they don't have to pay that monthly salary for the whole year. They just pick them up in November and drop them off in June, right? So that would be part of the strategy, I guess. And I think teams have done this for a little while now. the players seem to know this, so I just don't understand why more players aren't streaming. I think that's my question. And as I said at the start of the video, if you're one of the OpTic Halo players, are you taking a Cloud9 offer to go and play for this? Or are you staying on the OpTic Challengers situation, streaming a bit? Surely that makes a load more sense. So ZooMaa says that, wow, this is like crazy low, and in his situation, or if he was just one of these players nowadays, he would be going to school or would be getting a normal job and putting the fries in the bag.
Then we got a big man in the middle, Mr. JoeDeceives, professional Call of Duty player for the Toronto Ultras. How you feeling, Joey D?
I mean, I'm feeling insane. I mean, like he said, this is the greatest event I've ever been a part of. Like, the crowd here is insane. The atmosphere is literally just mind-blowing. I mean, I can't be more thankful to be here, so.
Listen, we love that. Make some noise for Joey D, please. Come on. Woo!
Whether it's before taxes, I make that after taxes, working a 9 to 5 that didn't require me to take any chances. 30K for a pro league player in a professional esports league where a spot costs $25 million at the start is insanity. Bro, 30K is fucking insane. Like, brother, 30K, that's like where, like, bro, if you're getting paid 30K, you like, bro, I'd be going to school or like working a job. Like, there's no way. Like, no, like, bro, to do that full time, like, yeah, granted, you can make money in other ways if you. Well, I mean, I guess they could make money in other ways if they win. You know what I mean? But most likely, if they're paying that type of money, then nobody's going to go there, and they're only going to get shit players, and they're not going to win. They're just going to be terrible. You know? Like, they're just going to be horrible.
How we have a league where, like, one org apparently is paying, like, astronomical figures, and then one org is paying, like, minimum wage. That, to me, is insane.
I mean, bro, I don't think
yeah.
like I don't think Cloud9 players should be making 150.
That's
bro.
in every sport, though, right? No, Slay. Like, there's just orgs with more money.
Not necessarily, bro. I mean, like, you could say that on a team level, but like some teams still have star players. Like, I feel like the problem now is like, bro, like these bottom tier teams cannot get star players. Like, even if they pay them well, like they just can't. And I think the comparison to like real sports is bad because, I mean, we're in a 4v4 game where it's like, if you don't have all 4 competent players, like you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point,
As Ake says, it is pretty remarkable how times have changed, because in Ake's first year in the league, he was making 300k with Los Angeles Guerrillas. Zinni on Boston a couple of years ago was making 270. We know that they have also dramatically reduced their salaries over the last couple of years. Don't exactly know to what level, right? But not maybe like it massively matters. But the point is that these players, if they want to make this work, like the players have to understand that you're not going to be in the league that long. And if you're in the league and you're making what is effectively minimum wage, and yeah, people would say, look, you're playing competitive video games for a living. You get on, you play COD 9 to 5. Like, these are understandable salaries. And in many sense, they are for a lot of these teams, because they can pay that amount of money. What value does it really create to the organization? They have total freedom to do so because they are they're a CDL team. So you can't go to anywhere else unless you want to go and play in challenges. You're not going to get that salary in challenges, obviously, because there's no return. So from a business perspective, given the state of the league and even just the state of esports in general, and the reason why Cloud9 are doing this, which seems fundamentally because they want to pretty much cash in for the Esports World Cup and minimize costs elsewhere, it's pretty funny because Jack Etienne, you guys remember when the Cloud9 first came into the league and they bought out New York, or they replaced that spot, he was like, oh yeah, well, we're going to make sure we give HyDra a competitive offer. Definitely don't want to lose HyDra, right? Like, he's the key asset. We're going to be competitive. And here we are a couple of years down the line, and they're absolute bottom of the barrel poverty org, according to recent rumors anyway. But it is, with the state of esports, kind of inevitable, and it shows where things are, that you've got that org paying this, and you've got Falcons paying 20 times as much, or whatever you want to say, potentially, to Cellium, right? But I do think it's concerning. What if you think about, oh, well, they're getting paid still like a wage to play COD? Like, while that is true, these guys, if you play for a CDL team, you're one of the best 48 Call of Duty players in the world. I think one would expect that the ecosystem would be in such a spot where that would carry slightly higher rewards than minimum wage, especially because if you're seemingly a top 15 player in the world and you play for the Falcons, or maybe even lower than that, you might be getting rewarded a hell of a lot more than that. So, you know, it's definitely a concern, and I think ZooMaa and Aches are right to give their kind of, let's say, comments on the current situation. But what is going to change at the moment? Because, as I say, the incentives are very much aligned for this to be the case. And if you're a player, are you going to turn this down, right? Like, if you do, and you decide to play challenges, then of course you're betting on yourself to try and get onto a better team that's going to pay you more money. That's number one. Or you're going to, let's say if you're one of the OpTic Halo guys, stay on OpTic and gain the benefits of that, stream and make some good money as well. That's got to be the strategy for some of these guys. But Cloud9 will keep asking around. If they get rejected, they'll keep going to other challengers players and saying, hey, we'll give you minimum wage to come and play for us this year. And, you know, players are going to want to do it. But also, they're going to want to move as quickly as they possibly can, you would think, to an organization that actually has a bit more money to spend. So very much on Twitter your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.